Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Lori Tucker. Glad you're with us. Knox County Commission recently voted to have the Knox County Sheriff's Office run the Richard L. Bean Juvenile Detention Center. And this week we are joined by Knox County Sheriff Tom Spangler to talk about this transition and more. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Lori.
First things first, Knox County Commission put your office in control of the Juvenile Detention Center. So what's going to change?
Well, not a lot's going to change, but obviously it's not going to take effect until January of next year. They have a director that they have brought in to run things, Brian, and Brian will do a great job. He's got a good background, and I think he'll get things squared away to where they need to be. There's obviously some things that need to change over there, but there's obviously been some good that's gone over there for years. And we just want to make sure that whenever we take it over, then we have the people that are already trained, and that's what we're doing now. We're doing a transition team, so we're already working on that, but we won't take control of it until January.
We're looking at a photo of Brian Bivens. I've interviewed him before. You worked with him for a long time until he got out and went into the private sector, still working with law enforcement. Tell us more about him, and is he the right man to do this?
He's very much the right man to do this. He's very knowledgeable, and I think he'll do a great job. And as it was mentioned in the commission meeting, you know, if they like the way things are going, I'd love for Brian to keep running it. It would be a great thing. You know, and there's people who think that the sheriff's office is going to run it like the Maloneyville detention facility. It's totally different. This is for juveniles. There are some rough children in that facility, but there's also kids in there that have made a mistake, and we have to treat those things completely different than we do at any other adult facility, if you will. And you know, we want to make sure that we keep the children safe, and that that's the number one goal.
Well, and being cognizant of that, you know, people have said, including Mayor Jacobs, listen, we want to thank Richard Bean for the years of commitment he had, but there have also been, dating back years, reports of things that were pretty significant problems at the center. Dating back to 1991, there was a report in the News Sentinel, and then ProPublica had the report of some juveniles apparently being held illegally in seclusion. How was this able to go on for so long?
Without any, I guess, complaints or anything from anybody, because we have no observation of that facility. It's not under our control, never has been. And I think a lot of people, when they think of the Knox County Juvenile Detention Facility, they think that it's under our umbrella, but it's not. It never has been. So it's always been a privately run facility. All
right, let's move on here and talk about one of your deputies who's been in the news, Deputy Dalton Swanger, home after being injured in the line of duty. How did you feel seeing him go through that terrible ordeal? It
was tough because he was in the same ICU area, trauma area that Tucker Blakely was in. And for that night, it just brought back some bad memories. And I just told somebody, I said, I can't do this again. And by looking at him, when I went back there to see him, along with some other officers, I thought the worst. He looked the worst, and God gave him another chance, and I'm so grateful for it. But man, he's doing great. And to go up there the Monday that he got out of the hospital, he was sitting up on the edge of the bed, and then of course we saw him downstairs, and I bought him one of his, as he referred to, one of his foo-foo drinks from Starbucks there. It's
what
nothing,
is it? I'm curious.
Well, it's a chocolate chip something. I couldn't, mocha or some kind, so I'm not sure what it was. But you know, this is a boy who's, I say a boy, he's a young man. He's 6'3" and 290 pounds, somewhere around there. But a very, very good, great officer, but a great person as well.
You know, such a grievous injury, and this whole incident was caught in the spotlight thanks to Patrol TV. Was that a plus or minus? I know that's got to be tough to have the cameras rolling and then something like this happens.
That's the minus side of it, but the positive side of it is for people to be able to see the real dangers that go on out here on the street. And, you know, it can be, you don't know. I tell our new recruits and anybody that I talk to, always remember this: when you least expect it, expect it. because that's when it's going to happen. And that's not to say that they were not on their guard the night that it happened, but that could have happened to anybody that night. And, we're very thankful that he's doing very well. He does have some rehab that he's going to have to go through, but he's doing awesome after what he went through.
Yeah, for those of you who may have missed this story, it's been all over the place, but he was hit in the head with a rock or a brick, and the suspect has been captured and
that's correct.
Charged.
Yes.
How's the filming agreement working out? Are you going to continue working with this group?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. It's been great because we've gotten a lot of inquiries about hiring and people coming to work, so it's worked out. We have an employee who worked with an agency down in Florida for several years until she retired, and they were doing it, and she said it was a very good recruiting tool, and we're seeing the benefits of it.
Wonderful.
So.
All right. Well, glad that Deputy Spangler is on the mend.
Thank you. Yes.
Any timeline on when you may expect him back?
No, because I told him, don't you even think about pushing this. I don't want him to push it, and it caused something else to happen. Just take your time, and we'll get back at it.
All right. I know you'll let us know when he's back.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sheriff. And I've got to move on here and talk more about immigration.
Okay.
Immigration raids across the country. We've been reporting on them. You've seen them. We've seen the county detention center housing more and more ICE inmates. The federal agreement, or the agreement with federal authorities, is costing more, as we've reported, than it's bringing in. So my question to you is, why should Knox County continue this if you're not gaining anything?
Well, the cost analysis that is done that we do in-house involves everything from medication to medical to salaries, everything like that. When the state does theirs, it just does housing and food and things such as that. It doesn't include everything, but that's our assessment that we do. And for us to continue doing it, it's bringing money into Knox County that they normally would not get that goes to their general fund. It doesn't come to us. It doesn't come to the Knox County Sheriff's Office. It goes to that general fund. Now, does it benefit us in certain areas, medication or whatever? It may do that, but
but you're not making money on this. You're not seeing any revenue from it.
Well, it's just like our state inmates. We don't make any money from our state inmates because they pay us $41 or $49 a day, and our feds pay us $114 a day. So any time that our state inmates are there, and they're there for long periods of time, where our ICE inmates that are in there are in there for 2 to 3 days. So it's a revolving door. They're in and out. We're only housing them for 2 to 3 days before they're in transit. That's all they're doing. We're not out picking anybody up. That's not what we're doing. I know that goes on out there.
People are saying it is.
No, we're not. I have more things to do than going and looking for people or they say that, well, he's brown or she's brown. We're not that way. That's not going on. And it gets really aggravating for me because I know what we're doing and I know what we're not doing. And that's not one of the things that we're doing.
Have you picked up any?
No, we haven't. Now, when I say when we picked up any, if we arrest somebody under the 287G program that we're in, if we arrest somebody and once they go to jail on a charge, then if they find out once they start doing their investigation of asking them where they're from, their country of origin, what have you, then they're able to do a little bit more background. Now, if it shows up they have warrants on them for something, then we notify ICE. But we don't notify ICE on every person that comes in because of where they're from.
How many times have you notified ICE? Do you know?
I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. No idea. Because, and again, we house people that KPD, us, THP, UTPD, everybody that brings people in, and those people are not, we don't get money for them unless they become a state inmate. So Knox County is having to put up the bill for that.
All right. We're almost out of time, but I can't let you go without asking how you're doing. You were diagnosed with cancer. You've been going through treatment. Where do things stand right now?
Well, I feel good. I've been blessed. I thank the community for their prayers. I thank the agency as well, for allowing me to, back early on when I was diagnosed and having to be out for 3 days a week at times to take the treatment that I was going through. I'm grateful for them, but I'm doing great. We're still going through some treatment, but I'm still here, so They still got to put up with me for another year.
We're grateful to see you. Glad you're doing well.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for spending time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, absolutely. Our panel of pundits, everyone weighs in. Coming up next on what we just talked about. Don't go anywhere. We're back in 90 seconds. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. Glad you're with us. A moment ago, we heard from Sheriff Tom Spangler. Now let's bring in our panel of pundits to discuss what he had to say. Joining us today, Courtney Piper, Craig Griffith, and Michael Covington. It's always good to see the three of you.
Thank you.
Let's first talk about the Bean Center and what the sheriff had to say in terms of whether Brian Bivens, if he does a good job, may just stay on the job and not bring in the sheriff's office perhaps in January to run things.
That's certainly an option. But first of all, I'd like to say best wishes to Tom in his battle against cancer. He's looking great, and I certainly hope that he kicks that cancer down the road and stays with us for a long time.
It looks like he continues to look even better every
Yes,
time
he
we
does.
see him, and that is a good thing.
And on the Bean Center, well, his discussion, I think, hit the nail on the head. We want to do what's best for the juveniles that are housed there. And so I think he's starting from the right point, whether they can hire enough people and whether they decide to keep Mr. Bevins on past his interim posting. You'll have to see how it works. I think there's some members of County Commission that aren't fully on that bandwagon yet, but you know, the proof's in the pudding. We'll have to see how he does going down the road.
He certainly has a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
The shakeup in the management or governance structure of the Juvenile Detention Center is a good thing. The problem has always been is there was no oversight, and there was not a structure that enabled oversight. This new structure will enable that, and my hope is that going forward, County Commission and the Sheriff's Office, no matter how they decide to move forward, there's always an emphasis and a focus on we need oversight of this facility. We need to have a structure that no matter who is in charge of this detention facility will always provide some independent oversight.
What about you, Michael?
Mr. Bivens is an interim. He's a convenience. What I'd like to see is the county commission who serves on the board not abdicate their responsibility to make sure they look for the best person to deal with a bad situation. So I want to see how they're going to proceed. I want to see if they're looking to groom Mr. Bivens for what they hope he will be, or if they're going to go and search for someone who knows what they are doing. Not one of the 5 people from the county commission that are on the board know anything about juvenile detention, nothing. So they need to go out and find a professional. And if they need assistance with that, they should seek that. This is too important an issue to be passed on to an interim. Let's get busy, do the job you're assigned to do a search, find the right person for the job.
This has got to be an extraordinarily expensive undertaking given the state, from what we understand, of the center right now, bringing it up to speed with where it needs to be today. Computerization alone, just keeping up with medications and the people that are coming through, all the things that apparently need to happen.
Well, lack of leadership gets to be very expensive after a while, Lori.
Yeah.
And you know, these are all the things that were not addressed and need to be addressed. And if we have the proper oversight, they will be. A background in juvenile justice or juvenile detention is great, but what this center needs now more than anything are people that are committed to upholding the public trust and oversight of these processes. There were complaints going to the Department of Children's Services, and nobody was doing anything about them. So the Department of Children's Services gave us a blueprint for what needed to be addressed and fixed, and nobody was there saying, well, what have we done on point A, point B, point C?
And I think that both Mayor Jacobs and Judge Tim Irwin now are fully invested in this. They were sort of the leaders of the movement that said that Richard Beans had enough time, we need to move on from him.
The catalyst, of course, being the whistleblower.
The whistleblower, right. But I think it's important now that Jacobs and Tim Irwin see what needs to be done, how much is going to be cost, and if they have to go back to the county for more money to accomplish that, then I think that's absolutely what they should do. If they need to go to county commission for a budget amendment to fund new computers, to fund more personnel, they absolutely need to do that to make sure that the center gets up and running the way it should be, and that we can serve the juveniles that are in there and make sure that they're the number one priority and get them back out as productive citizens out in our community.
You have anything to add?
I'd like to see there be major corrections to those things that were done improperly. I'd like to make sure that through our case management, through our social work, that we make sure we identify those young people who have been underserved, and let's get them some care right now, this minute. We're worried about who the next guy will be, how the interim will be, and those are all important things. I'd like all of the attention to be on the young people at this point because they've been neglected and underserved.
Let's move on now to, good point, to 287G. And critics of Knox County's participation in this have said, you know what, the center is nothing more than a roadside motel for ICE. Coming through, is it really worth the money? What do you think?
Well, they've signed the agreement, so we have to follow the law. We're trying to do a role to help ICE accomplish their goals. And so I'm not so sure that we're losing money or gaining money or whatever on the process. But, you know, it's part of a law that they signed, the agreement that they have. And if County Commission wants to change their mind on that, they need to vote the agreement down. So we'll see how that works in the future as it comes up for reauthorization.
I'd like to call attention to how the sheriff described this agreement with ICE and the detainees that we have in Knox County facilities. And he described them as a source of revenue. He did not describe this as a public service. He described it as a source of revenue to the county's general fund. I think that is very telling, that if the purpose of this contract was just to find a way to get more money in Knox County's general fund coffers, what's the point here? What is the public service that the sheriff's office is providing? It can't just be revenue. We've got to have a mission-centered service that we're providing to.
The Latin term, post hoc ergo propter hoc, means simply after this, therefore because of this. Had it not been for the millions and millions and millions of illegal immigrants who crossed the border over that number of years, we wouldn't be having this problem. So the fact that there's some pain in the administration of a program that will help us to, dare I say, rid ourselves of folks who should have been encouraged to dig their heels in where they lived, fight for a good life where they lived, instead of being encouraged to come here and encumber our economy. I'm sorry, it should not have been a problem that manifests itself the way it has, and we need to look back at the folks who are responsible for that and continue to do the things that this program is doing and get the country back on the right footing.
And Michael, that's all fine and well, but the sheriff did not describe this contract, this agreement, as providing a public service like you described it. He described it purely in terms of a revenue source for Knox County.
Sheriff Spangler, you could have explained that better.
I don't think that the immigrants with a gun to their face in their home country saying, get out of here, had much of a choice in where they came to.
The British were armed.
And
we fought them. And we're now free.
Okay.
That's the point.
The
point is, had they dug their heels in and lost their lives, they would have their freedom in their own country, and we wouldn't have to put them out.
If they lost their lives, they wouldn't have freedom.
We wouldn't have to put them out if they stayed in their own country.
You know, and part of the problem with this whole program is that, you know, yes, we thought that we were going to get the worst of the worst, the criminals out and things like that.
And we just got millions.
And it winds up that we're getting rid of busboys and waitresses and painters, and now moving on to farm workers. And part of the problem I see is that none of their employers are facing any consequences of hiring undocumented workers.
Well, and to that point, and kind of expanding on it, when you look outside of Knox County, do you think the policy is more unpopular than people who like it in terms of the raids and all the other things we're seeing? Do you think people are going, wait a minute, was this such a good idea after all?
Well, the election showed that people wanted this policy.
It did,
so,
but now I wonder if things
the way
have
it's
changed.
been implemented, you know, it may have changed things, but I haven't seen anything that would indicate that. I think a number of people are dissatisfied with the way the operation is going. For example, in Los Angeles, there was a raid on a park on a sunny Monday afternoon that involved horses. It involved armed vehicles, and the only people that were in the park were people attending a summer camp. So I think there's a lot of show here, not really addressing the problem of getting rid of the people that are worst of the worst. So we'll have to see how it goes. Yes, I think there's a lot of pushback from that because people are understanding that, you know, it's not necessarily criminals and things. They're getting low-level workers in the hospitality industry.
The problem was exacerbated 5 years ago, and 4 years ago, and 3 years ago. That's why we're dealing with the problem now. If you want to blame the problem solvers, okay, so be it. But the problem was created by someone else, and the problem is going to get fixed.
Well, yeah,
It's
it
not gonna
depends
get-
on whether it's a problem.
True.
All
Depends
right.
on if it,
Well,
well, we'll end it there, Lori.
Let's end it there. We appreciate you, Courtney, and everyone. We'll be back to talk a little bit more here on Tennessee This Week coming up. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. We want to get to some other topics making news this week, most notably Knox County Schools taking a really hard look at cell phone use in the classroom. And what they've decided, they are very close to a second vote on what's being called a waive for the day. You can still have your phone on you, but you can't use it in class unless it's an emergency. They had three options. Do you think this is the best option?
Well, I will undoubtedly say that cell phones, electronic communications, digital communications in schools is a deterrent to learning. I think that many people are spending way too much time on their cell phones, so I understand the point of that. But this ban for all day seems to be, the horse seems to be out of the barn now. We are so dependent on this type of digital communication that this type of total ban seems to be a little short-sighted. You know, I remember working in hospital environments where we were trying to figure out what was the appropriate use of cell phones for the clinical staff and things like that. But that was 15 years ago. That was before cell phones permeated every part of our life. So I'm not sure that they have come up on a proper solution. And what I don't hear from are the teachers. The teachers are going to be the people that will have to implement this policy. Do they view it as another attempt, another case where they'll have to do disciplinary action against students for violating the ban? How do they think that this is going to impact the instructional day? So I'd like to hear more from teachers on whether this is the proper way to go or there's other uses.
You walk that line because you want your kids to have a phone in case of emergency. On the other hand, that's a big job for teachers, something else they've got to watch out for.
I understand the goal of this policy being removing distractions so you can focus on what's going on in the classroom. But to Craig's point, this kind of technology is part of our daily lives. You know, I can remember when I was in school, we tried to do this, but it was with computers. If you need to do research, you know, you cannot use your computer, you've got to go to a library, and that does not teach anybody how to use something that is going to become, or is becoming part of their lives. So this appears to strike a nice balance because the students can have the technology on them and use it in case they need it. It's not being collected at the beginning of the day. So, and they're just being asked to keep it away and not use it during class time or during break. So this seems to be the right balance, but it could put more burden on teachers. This is one more thing I've got to manage in the classroom. But you could also say, well, they were managing it before without any sort of policy to give them guidance as to how to manage the interaction of the cell phone or the wireless communication device in the classroom.
Get the face out of the phone and back on
Right.
to what they need to do. Michael?
This is just an issue that I don't know that this issue can be resolved without a lot of study and a lot of time. I would not want my daughter to not be able to reach me or her mother in the case of an emergency. But with the touch of a couple of buttons, every child's parents in every classroom can know there's a problem. So that can't be the issue. But a lot of times there's a lot of distraction with phones. I'm distracted by my phone. How that is managed in an educational environment, again, I do not have an answer. I don't even have a strong opinion. And I think I whispered that to Courtney between the breaks. I don't really know what the story is. I don't know what should happen. But what I do know is an action is being taken. And so what I'd like to be confident in is that they had enough information to make the right decision. And that is something I'm not certain of at this point.
The school board discussion this month focused on really the different grade bands, so high school versus K through 8, and shouldn't we be able to give more leniency to high school students because they're going to need to know how to work with this in their daily lives?
Thank you so much.
I made
We're
it
out
through
of
18 years
time.
of school without a cell phone, and I survived.
Okay, great.
We'll end it on that note. Thanks so much
Did
for
you
being
take your
with
horse
us,
and buggy
everyone.
to this show
I
today?
did. Well,
The
seems
views
like-
of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Next Star Broadcasting.